In the first two readings, we hear about what we could call the internal relations within a family. Honor your father and your mother. That was not primarily intended for little kids. If the parents can't get the little kids to honor them, then the parents are in trouble. Honor your father and mother. Remember for how many years our society went forward without nursing homes. Now, sometimes they're very helpful, sometimes they're very competent, sometimes they're very necessary. No one is saying they aren't. But for many, many thousands of years, there were no nursing homes in society. And the parents, the grandparents, were cared for by the children. Of course, that too is when there were many children to share. Now, a different story. So many things in our society have complicated right relations within a family. The cultural need to get ahead, to keep up with the Joneses, problems with drugs and alcohol and sex, and all sorts of other things. Family life is very complicated, and having those right relations really requires the grace of the sacrament of marriage. If couples don't pray for that grace every day and live in that grace, family life can be far less than pleasant. But in the gospel, a whole new issue is raised about family. Not the issue of right relations among themselves, the issue of their relationship to God in the temple. In the temple. And we have a beautiful story that teaches us exactly how the family is to relate to the temple. Joseph and Mary took Jesus there to fulfill the requirements of the law. And there was a ceremony. And they went through that ceremony. And that was their expectation. But because how are those people described who are in the temple? They're waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. They're not thinking about where they're going tonight for New Year's Eve. They're waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. They are focused in prayer. And when someone comes to the temple really focused in prayer, the ceremony unlocks the door to learning the truth about Jesus Christ, about the world, and about ourselves. And that's what happens to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Simeon proclaims Jesus, the light of the Gentiles, the glory of the people Israel. A confession of faith, giving messianic titles to Jesus in a very early revelation of who he was. And Simeon himself gives us the example of what it is to be a disciple of Jesus. Living long enough to see the Messiah is enough for him. He doesn't want anything else. He doesn't have to go to Times Square on New Year's Eve. It's enough to see the Messiah. Nothing else necessary. That's being a true disciple of Christ. And then we have Anna the prophetess. Good old Anna. She's the prefigurement of all religious sisters, all consecrated sisters. And what did Anna do? She remained constantly in the temple, praising God night and day. The public witness to holiness in the temple. That's what religious sisters and consecrated life are all about. And once again, in our country and in our culture, that whole thing has gone off the tracks in many instances. But that's why we treasure the vocation of authentic consecrated women. We treasure that because they show us that being in the temple, relating closely and intimately with God in a way that everybody can see, provides that witness to the holiness of Mary, who of course was right there. The Holy Family went to the temple to celebrate the presentation of Jesus. The Holy Family went to the temple and they got much more than they bargained for. They learned the truth about Jesus. He's the light of the Gentiles. They learned the truth about the world. The world is supposed to be waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. They learned about the crucifixion, that a sword would pierce Mary's heart, just as it pierced the heart of her beloved Son on the cross. They learned that in the world the thoughts of many will be laid bare, because when one is confronted with the crucified Lord, one has to say yes or no. And so their thoughts are laid bare. Their thoughts are laid bare. Is the temple central in our life? Or is it more Times Square? For you, it's the temple. For a lot of brother and sister Catholics, it's more like Times Square. Go out and tell them to get the heck in the temple. That's right. I knew you were with me. Nothing like a little encouragement, out of the mouth of babes. So that's what it's all about today on the Feast of the Holy Family. Keeping all those internal relations within a family in order, especially through forgiveness. And keeping the right relationship of the family to the temple in order. And if, by God's grace, the grace of confirmation, the grace of matrimony, we could do that, let's pray and do what we can so that the Lord can give us that wonderful gift. Praise be Jesus Christ.